The moment you stop reaching out and he goes quiet too, most people think the story is finished. It isn't. That is the exact second the real pressure begins. Not outside, inside, in the silence, in the space where there are no new messages, no easy answers, no quick relief, and no little signs telling you what to think. That space feels empty, but it is not empty at all. It is doing something to both of you every single day. It is shifting emotions. It is changing power. It is exposing truth. And if you do not understand what silence is really doing, you will read the whole situation the wrong way and make the move that ruins everything. So stay with me because this is where most people lose before they even realize the game has started. They think silence means nothing is happening. Wrong. Silence is when the hidden part begins. Silence is when habits get exposed. Silence is when attachment gets tested. Silence is when the person who always had access to you suddenly has to feel your absence instead of your presence. And that changes more than most people can see. What happens next is not decided by the last text, not by the last argument, not by the last cold reply that made your stomach drop. It is decided here. In the days where neither of you says a word, in the hours where you want to reach out and don't, in the moments where he notices you are not there and cannot easily explain why that bothers him. This part matters more than people think. Watch closely because this changes everything. At first, silence feels brutal on your side. It follows you everywhere. It shows up in the morning before your feet even touch the floor. It slips into your day while you are doing normal things, smiling, talking, working, pretending to be fine. And then out of nowhere, your mind goes right back to him. Does he notice I stopped? Does he care? Is he relieved? Is he confused? Is he missing me at all? Or am I the only one carrying this weight? That is the hardest part. Not always the loss itself, but the not knowing. Because a painful truth can still give you ground to stand on. A clear answer still lets you move. But silence gives you nothing solid. It gives you fog. It gives you unfinished thoughts. It gives you 10 different stories in your head and no proof for any of them. So your mind fills in the blanks. You replay the last conversation. You study the last tone. You wonder if one different message could have changed everything. You check your phone when you know you should not. You put it down, you pick it back up. And the more unclear it feels, the more your emotions start begging you to do something, anything, just to end the uncertainty. That is why silence feels so heavy. It is not only quiet, it is pressure. It is your heart wanting an answer while life gives you none. And if you are not careful, that pressure will talk you into breaking the silence, not because it is right, but because it hurts. Now, here is the part many people never hear. And once you understand it, your whole view changes. In the early days, he usually is not feeling what you are feeling. Not yet. That does not automatically mean he never cared. It does not mean the connection meant nothing. And does not mean he is heartless. It means silence often lands differently on him at the start. While you may feel alarm, he may feel space. While you may feel the cut in the connection right away, he may feel relief from tension, relief from pressure, relief from the need to explain, respond, fix, define, or deal with emotions he has been avoiding. For a little while, that open space can feel easy to him, comfortable even. He goes into his routine, work, friends, the gym, sleep, distraction. He moves through his day without the same emotional storm hitting him on day one. And this is exactly where people make the fatal mistake. They assume he must feel what they feel at the same speed, in the same way, with the same urgency. He often does not. So when you read his silence through your own pain, you panic. You tell yourself if he cared, he would have said something by now. You tell yourself if you do not act fast, the whole thing will disappear. But the truth is, his emotional timeline may be behind yours. The silence may be hitting him later. And if you rush in too early, you interrupt the exact process that might have finally made him feel the absence of you in a real and undeniable way. This is why so many people break first. The weight hits them hard. The discomfort feels unbearable. The fear of being forgotten starts whispering the same lie over and over. Send something small, casual, harmless. Just check in. Just say hi. Just keep the door from fully closing. And the second they do, they hand back all the emotional work the silence had quietly started doing for them. Because before that moment, he was in a space where your presence was no longer guaranteed. He was beginning, even if slowly, to live without easy access to you. But when you reach out first, especially from anxiety, you remove the mystery and the consequence at the same time. You answer the question he did not yet have to ask out loud. You show him the line is still open. You show him the bond still depends on your effort. You show him he does not have to wonder because you will bridge the gap before he ever feels the full distance. And that keeps the old dynamic alive. The one where you carry the thread and he simply benefits from it. So in those first days or weeks, while you are hurting and trying to hold yourself together, he may still be comfortable. That hurts to hear, but it matters. Because if you understand it, you stop taking his early silence as the final truth. You stop assuming comfort means indifference. More importantly, you stop interrupting a process that has not finished doing its work. Because that comfort does not last forever. It has an ending, quietly, slowly, in small moments that do not look dramatic from the outside. He sees a joke, a clip, a random thing in his day and thinks, she would laugh at this. For half a second, he is already about to send it. Then he remembers he cannot send it the way he used to. He has a rough afternoon and thinks about who he would actually want to talk to. Your name appears before he can stop it, but the access is gone. He has a good moment and feels the instinct to share it. Again, your absence meets him. These are not huge scenes. That is why they are powerful. They repeat, they stack, they build. And one day, the silence that first felt like freedom starts to feel different, less like open air, more like something missing, more like a room with one familiar voice removed. That is when the mind begins to turn back. That is when he starts reviewing what he did not have to review before. Did I take her for granted? Was she more important than I admitted? Did I get too used to knowing she would be there? Is she still there now? Is she talking to someone else? Has she moved on? Is this actually over? And once those questions start, the emotional ground shifts because people rarely think deeply about losing what they still believe is waiting for them. Real reflection begins when certainty disappears, not when you are available, when you are absent, not when the connection is easy, when the connection is no longer guaranteed. And while that delayed wave is finally starting to touch him, something else is happening on your side. You are not at the beginning anymore. You are coming through the worst of it. You already did the sleepless nights, the overthinking, the checking, the replaying, the internal arguments, the moments where your chest felt tight for no clear reason. You carried the heaviest part first. And because you carried it, you start changing first too. Not all at once, not in some dramatic movie scene, quietly. One morning, you wake up and he is not your first thought for the first few minutes. One afternoon, you laugh at something and actually mean it. One evening, you realize you were present in your own life for an entire hour without mentally circling back. Then a few hours, then more. You start returning to yourself in pieces. Your routine feels less fake. Food tastes normal again. Music stops sounding like a wound. Friends feel comforting instead of like noise. You do not even notice at first how much this matters, but it matters a lot because the timing flips the whole dynamic. At the same moment, he may just be starting to feel the loss of your absence. You are learning how to live without needing his return to feel okay. That is a massive shift. He is entering uncertainty while you are slowly stepping out of it. He is beginning to question what he lost while you are beginning to remember what you still have. And from that point on, you are no longer standing in the same emotional place where this silence first found you. That is where the real rebuilding starts, not of the relationship of you. You begin reconnecting with the version of yourself that existed before this situation took over your nervous system. The part of you that had taste, rhythm, standards, focus, joy, and a life that was not built around one person's inconsistency. You start filling your time with things that return energy instead of stealing it. You spend time with people who remind you who you are when you are relaxed. You stop performing strength and start actually becoming stronger. And every small choice matters. Every walk, every laugh, every boundary. Every morning you choose not to chase. Every night you choose peace over obsession. It is easy to miss how powerful these little moments are, but together they rebuild something that may have worn down slowly while you were trying to keep the connection alive. Your self-respect, your inner calm, your sense that your worth does not rise and fall based on whether one person texts back. And here is what is wild about that shift. Even in silence, people can feel when your energy has changed. He may not have the perfect language for it. He may not sit there saying, wow, she has re-centered herself and become emotionally grounded. But he feels the difference. He feels that you are not waiting in the same way. He feels that the old version of you, the endlessly available version, may not still be sitting there with the same open door. And uncertainty does what certainty never could. It makes him pay attention. This is where the little signals often begin. A like on something after weeks of nothing. A reaction that feels strangely timed. A short message with no weight behind it. Hey, how have you been? Just checking in. Very small, very careful. Not a full conversation. Not a real apology, not a clear statement. Just a soft knock on the door to see if it still opens the same way it used to. And this part is important, so do not miss it. That message is not always proof of deep transformation. Sometimes it is simply curiosity. Sometimes it is guilt. Sometimes it is loneliness. Sometimes it is habit. And often it is a test. He wants to know if access is still easy, if your warmth is still waiting, if the emotional map between you stayed exactly the same while he was away. Most people see that message and instantly light up. Their whole system rushes forward. Finally, a sign, a crack in the silence, a reason to breathe again. So they answer with all the energy they were trying to contain. Fast, warm, available, relieved, and in one quick moment, they reveal everything. I still care exactly the same. You still matter exactly the same. The door is still open exactly the same. And once he feels that nothing has truly changed on your side, he has no reason to show up differently from before. The old pattern can restart with one lazy text and one eager reply. That is why so many people think silence failed, when really they just gave away the lesson too soon. So, what do you do instead? You do not become cold, you do not become cruel, and you do not play fake games. You simply answer from the new place you have been building inside yourself. Calm, unhurried, clear, present, not desperate for the conversation to mean more than it means. Not rushing to create closeness just because contact returned. You let your energy match your growth, not your fear. And that difference is huge because people can tell when they are speaking to someone who has been sitting by the phone waiting for rescue. And they can also tell when they are speaking to someone who kept living, kept healing, and did not put life on pause. That changes the entire feel of the exchange. Suddenly, the easy old route is gone. He cannot simply slide back in and collect the same emotional access with zero effort. He has to feel the gap. He has to recognize that if he wants something real, he may actually need to bring something real. More honesty, more consistency, more intention, more courage. And if he does not bring that, the silence taught you enough not to confuse crumbs with commitment. This is the turning point. Not whether he contacts you, but whether you still respond like the old version of yourself. Because the old version was easier to keep half close. The new version sees more clearly. The new version does not panic at silence. The new version is not trying to win him back at any cost. The new version is listening to actions, not tiny signals. And that is where your power becomes real. And the deeper truth is this: the silence was never only about him. It was always revealing you to yourself. What do you do when there is no message to guide your mood? Who do you become when there is no contact to feed your hope? Do you collapse into waiting, or do you slowly return to your own center? Because if he comes back and finds the exact same emotional setup he left behind, then nothing meaningful has changed. The same cycle will restart. The same confusion will return. The same uneven effort will wear you down again. But if he comes back and finds someone grounded, someone who knows what she brings, someone who is no longer afraid to lose what is not truly choosing her, then it becomes a completely different conversation. Now, he is not dealing with someone trying to hold on. He is dealing with someone who can genuinely evaluate what he is offering. Is it clear? Is it consistent? Is it enough? Does it match what I know I need? That is not hardness. That is clarity. That is not punishment. That is self-respect. And when you get there, you stop being hypnotized by the idea of his return, because his return by itself is not the prize. A better dynamic is the prize. Truth is the prize. Peace is the prize. A relationship where you do not have to make yourself smaller, quieter, easier, or endlessly patient just to keep someone close, that is the prize. Everything else is noise. And if he never comes back, then the silence still gave you something far more valuable than one more round of mixed signals. It gave you your own life back. It gave you the chance to stop measuring your worth by someone else's timing. It gave you space to feel what was real instead of staying busy with false hope. It gave you the room to admit where you had been abandoning yourself just to hold the connection together. And yes, that hurts. It hurts to see where you overextended. It hurts to notice where you accepted too little for too long. It hurts to realize how much of your emotional world was built around waiting. But that pain has value if you use it well, because it can wake you up. It can show you the places where your standards got blurry. It can show you the places where loneliness made inconsistency look like potential. It can teach you the difference between chemistry and safety, between attention and commitment, between a possibility and a plan. And once you learn those things deeply, not just in theory, but in your body, you stop chasing the same kind of pain in a new face. You become harder to confuse, harder to access carelessly, harder to keep in the gray zone, not because you closed your heart, but because you finally understand the cost of leaving it open in the wrong direction for too long. That is growth. Quiet growth, strong growth. The kind nobody claps for at first, but everybody feels later. So the real game is not who texts first. It is not who misses who more. It is not who breaks the silence, who posts what, who watches whose story, who tries to seem unbothered better. That is surface level thinking. The real game is whether you can sit inside uncertainty and let it sharpen you instead of shrinking you. Whether you can use the quiet to become more honest, more centered, more awake to what you truly want. Whether you can stop treating one person's attention like the final answer to your value. Because when you reach that place, something changes that cannot be faked. If he returns with sincerity, you can meet that with clear eyes. If he returns with the same low effort, you can see it immediately and keep your peace. If he never returns, you still do not lose, because your life is no longer hanging from that one outcome. You are no longer waiting to be chosen in order to feel complete. And that is what makes you powerful. Not indifference, wholeness. Not coldness, stability, not pretending you do not care, knowing you will be okay either way. This is the part people skip because it takes patience and it cannot be rushed. But if you stay through it, if you let silence finish its work, it can give you something stronger than closure and deeper than comfort. It can give you self-command. It can teach you how to stand still without begging uncertainty to end. And that is rare. There is also something else happening in this silence that many people miss. You are learning the truth of the connection without needing another long conversation to explain it. Silence reveals patterns words can hide. If someone only comes forward when they sense your energy pulling back, that tells you something. If they give tiny signs but never meaningful effort, that tells you something. If they reappear only to check access and disappear again when real presence is required, that tells you everything. And the more grounded you become, the less likely you are to romanticize these half steps into something bigger than they are. This matters because many people do not suffer only from heartbreak. They suffer from misreading, from turning minimal contact into major intention, from calling confusion a connection because the alternative feels too painful to accept. But once silence has matured you a little, you stop needing fantasy to protect you from truth. You can look at what is actually happening and call it by its real name. And that honesty changes your future. It saves you time. It saves your nervous system. It saves your ability to trust yourself. So when contact comes, if it comes, you stop asking only, do I still want him? You start asking better questions. What is actually being offered here? What would staying in this dynamic cost me? Is this peace I fought so hard to rebuild about to be traded for another round of almost? Those are grown questions, strong questions, necessary questions. And once you start asking them, the whole emotional landscape changes. Maybe the hardest part of this whole process is that nobody can do it for you. Friends can comfort you, advice can guide you, time can soften the edge, but there comes a moment when it is just you in a quiet room with your thoughts, your habits, your cravings to check, your urge to reach, your fear of letting go, and your decision about who you want to be. That is the true test. Not public, private, not dramatic, daily. And every time you choose not to betray your own healing for a tiny burst of relief, you get stronger. Every time you let the wave pass without acting from panic, you get clearer. Every time you return your attention to your own life instead of placing it back in hands that were not holding it well, you reclaim another piece of yourself. That is why silence can become sacred if you let it. Not because it feels good, it often does not, but because it strips away illusion. It shows you where you are still attached to outcomes that do not honor you. It shows you where you still confuse longing with destiny. And if you stay honest, it also shows you how much of your power returns the moment you stop chasing certainty from someone who is not showing up with clarity. Keep watching this pattern. Keep noticing what the silence is teaching you, because once you really learn it, you carry that wisdom into every future connection. And that changes more than one story. It changes the way you love. By the time you come out the other side of this, you are not the same person who entered it. You are not the one staring at the last unanswered message asking if you were enough. You are not the one believing one reply could save your whole emotional world. You are someone who walked through the hardest kind of quiet and discovered that your peace could survive it. You learned that missing someone does not always mean they are right for you. You learned that being chosen late is not the same as being valued well. You learned that real love does not need endless confusion to prove it is deep. And maybe most of all, you learned that your life gets better when you stop making your heart available to half effort and start making it available to truth. So if the silence between you and him is happening right now, do not rush to label it as failure. Do not assume nothing is moving just because nothing is being said. Let it show you what is real. Let it show him what absence feels like. Let it show you what life feels like when your energy starts coming back home. And if he returns, let him meet the version of you that was forged in this quiet, not the version that begged to escape it. If he does not return, keep going anyway. Keep building. Keep healing. Keep choosing yourself in plain, practical, everyday ways. Because the moment you no longer need one specific outcome to feel whole, that is the moment the silence stops controlling you. And that is not where you lose. That is where you finally begin to win.